You may have heard of the Mixolydian mode, the Mixolydian scale. Indeed, Mixolydian is one of the 7 major scale modes. Now the modes can be sort of a confusing subject. You know, there's a lot of theory going on. It's based on a very, very simple mathematical principle, but sonically there's a lot of depth to it. So the modes can be really confusing. The best way in is to get a single mode or a couple of modes under your fingers, in your ears, and familiar enough so that you can use it, right? Once you're using the modes, then you can sort of go back and understand how they all function. Some of the modes are pretty obscure and not used very much. Some of the modes, like Mixolydian, are used all the time and have a very, very familiar sound. So they represent a really great way to get started. Mixolydian is one of those modes. Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. Today you will learn the Mixolydian mode. Now, as I just stated, the Mixolydian mode is really very, very widely used. Certainly one of the most widely used of all the modes. It's everywhere in modern music. I'm going to explain why that is, the architecture of the mode, why it sounds the way it does, what chord it creates, which you'll see is pretty interesting. Then we'll zoom in and we'll put it on the neck. I'll give you a shape with the root on the E string that allows you to just get the mode on the guitar and start to listen to it, because that's where the most important work gets done. Once you can hear the mode and use it and play it, that's when it becomes really, really useful. And from there, you can sort of get a little bit deeper into the theory. And then I'll give you a couple of examples. I'll show you some examples of how it's used in popular music. 3 or 4 examples of it being used, you know, melodically and harmonically. But first of all, let me explain what the mode is. The best way to think about the Mixolydian mode is it's simply a major scale. That's an A major scale, with the 7th degree taken down a half step, or flatted, the flat 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. So it really is a major scale with a flat 7. When you harmonize this scale, the chord you get right off the bat, off the 1st degree, is the dominant 7th chord. The dominant 7th chord is a chord that's built off the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and that flat 7. The Mixolydian mode gets its sound from that relationship between the major 3rd and that flat 7. And I'm going to show you how that sounds. That's the major 3rd and the flat 7 being played at the same time. Here they are all the way through the octave. It has that dominant 7th chord sound. That's the sound of Mixolydian. That tritone being an interval between the major 3rd and the flat 7. That tritone sits in the middle of the scale and really gives it all its sonic personality. And just for review, dominant 7th chords are in jazz all over the place. They're in pop music everywhere, R&B everywhere. They're all over the place in rock and roll. They're just like that. The dominant chord is used. I mean, you could throw a rock and hit a dominant chord in popular music every single time. So you're always hearing this Mixolydian sound, even though you might not be hearing someone play the Mixolydian mode specifically. This sound is very ubiquitous. It's everywhere. We're going to zoom in, put it on the neck, get all the fret numbers for a single position of the Mixolydian mode so you can hear it. Then we're going to play some popular examples so you can hear how people have been using it in the past. Okay, so let's zoom in and get it on the neck. Okay, let's get Mixolydian on the fretboard, in our ears, where it belongs. We're going to use the tonal center of A, root on the E string, 5th fret. That's going to be where we build the scale and start listening to it. Let me just play it for you, show you what it looks like and what it sounds like. Let me give you the fret numbers here. And again, A, root on the E string. We're at 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 6, 7, 5, 7, 8, 5. If you harmonize the scale, meaning play every other note, you get the dominant 7th chord. That's root 3, 5, flat 7. To show you why that's an important thing in a moment. Why does it sound the way it does? What is that flat 7, that single alteration? Why does that drive this sound so much? Let me show you why. Here's Mixolydian. The distance between the 3rd and the 7, that flat 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, the distance between the 3rd and the 7 is a tritone. Tritone's an interval. We're not going to dive too much into that, but listen to the harmonic tension it creates when you play them at the same time. When you glide over them as a scale, it doesn't do much, but when you land on both of those notes at the same time, it's pretty intense. Now the tritone is a symmetrical interval, so it stacks in octaves. I'm not going to get too deep into that because I did a tritone interval video already, but listen to this. Same relationship. Those are all the tritones in the A Mixolydian scale, just simply stacked in octaves. That dominant chord, root 3, 5, flat 7, is everywhere in music. It's in the blues, it's in jazz, it's in pop music, it's in R&B, it's in bluegrass, it's everywhere. So it's almost as if this Mixolydian sound is sort of hiding in plain view. It's in so many songs that we hear every day. So that tritone is really sort of outlining Mixolydian. You hear it all the time whenever a dominant chord is being played. Okay, so now I want to give you a couple of examples of Mixolydian sort of out in the wild so you can hear how people have used it, how composers have used it. The first two examples are going to be harmonic stacks. What's a harmonic stack? A harmonic stack is just notes played at the same time. Those are chords. Harmonic stack is just a way of saying chords. I'm going to show you how Mixolydian has been used just in chords. The first chord progression that I'm going to show you is a very, very familiar one. It goes like this. Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. Okay, how is that Mixolydian? Let's dive in and I'll show you how. We've got a 1 chord built on A, right? It's going to this D chord, which is a 4 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got a 1-4 progression, right? Major to major. This 5 chord, built off of E, because E is the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is minor. And that's defined by this G note. This is an E minor chord. The only way Louie Louie works is with a minor 5. This G note is the flat 7 in this key, the key of A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, flat 7. So when that E minor comes in, it introduces the G into this tonal center, nails Mixolydian because the A chord is major. There's that tritone right there. The only way Louie Louie works is to be built from Mixolydian. There's no other way to generate that chord progression. So there's Mixolydian in a harmonic stack, in a chord progression. The next example is also a harmonic stack, but it's dyads. It's only 2 notes at the same time. This should sound familiar. That's Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution by AC/DC. Sorry about playing an AC/DC on a Strat. At least I have a humbucker. So that's, you can forgive me, I hope. How is that Mixolydian? How is that dyadic phrase Mixolydian? Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution is in the key of E. And it starts with this little dyad phrase. I'll show you how that outlines Mixolydian. This first dyad phrase are just 2 notes inside an E major chord. Those 2 notes happen to be the 3rd and the 5th. When you get up to this dyad, this note here is D. D in the key of E is the flat 7. So you've got the major 3rd and the flat 7 again. There's that tritone. The only way this song is possible is using Mixolydian. So there's another example of it being used harmonically in a harmonic stack. The next 2 examples are going to be melodic. So this is where the actual melody uses Mixolydian where the harmony may not. The first example is Van Halen's Runnin' with the Devil. And in the verse, the chord progression, the guitar part goes like this. Forget about those harmonics. That's not really the juice. The juice is in this little dyadic thing that goes down. Now, interestingly enough, this does not outline Mixolydian, and I'll just prove this out for you. This first dyad, we're in the key of A here. This first dyad is G and B. That's the flat 7 and the 2 in the key of A. It goes down and spreads out like this. Now it's the 6 in the root. The third one is the 5 and the flat 7 again. So there's no 3rd in there. It hasn't suggested whether it's major or minor yet. So this chord progression doesn't have a 3rd in it. So we don't really know yet. When the vocals come in, David Lee Roth bases the entire melody off of the major 3rd. So he's basing the entire melody off of this 3/4 thing. So this and this together give you that tritone. So that's Mixolydian again. Guitar sort of like not playing it, melody nailing it, right? Interesting. We're building that Mixolydian sound using 2 different voices, the guitar and the vocals. The last example I want to give you is Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. When the strings come in on the intro to this song, and this is in the key of E again, it goes like this. So those notes in relation to E, which is the key the song is in, starts on the major 3rd, and here's the flat 7. Starts on the major third. Here's that flat 7. Here's the first note of the melody. It's a tritone built off of the third and the flat 7. There's no way this melody can exist except for Mixolydian. Okay, so there's a few examples. Mixolydian being used as a harmonic stack. It's all over the place. It's hiding in plain view, right? It's in the airwaves. We can hear it all the time. Anytime you hear a dominant chord, you're getting served that tritone. That sound of Mixolydian is in the air. Okay, so there it is, the Mixolydian mode. Fascinating. That tritone between the major third and the flat 7 is where that whole tonality comes from. Here's flat 7 root, 3, 4, 5 flat 7. That's that sound. It's got an uplifting sound, right, because it's a major scale, but it's got that flat 7. Very cool mode. And you could hear how it's built into tons of modern music, right? Tons of pop songs. And I only just scratched the surface. I mean, it's everywhere. And again, everywhere you hear a dominant 7th chord, you're getting that Mixolydian sound, right? That's being transmitted through the tonality, through that harmonic information. That Mixolydian sound is getting in. It's everywhere. Okay, I've tabbed all this stuff out. That's on Patreon. That's linked in the description below. Head on over there if you want the tabs. Also, we're building a really vibrant community over there. So if you like what's going on here on the channel and you want to dive deeper and you like sort of the style of what's going on here, Patreon might be a great way to do that. And if you do pledge there, I thank you in advance. Okay, go get Mixolydian under your fingers and in your ears. And see if you can start to make it useful. It's really great over the blues. It's just an incredibly fantastic mode. I hope you have fun with this. I use Mixolydian all the time. I really love it. It's one of my favorite modes, and I hope it becomes one of yours. Take care, and I'll see you next time.